Welcome to box football, guys. And Man City have just won their their eighth Premier League title, and Pep Guardiola just won his sixth Premier League title. It looks like he's going to stay on next season, Jack. But with Manchester City winning four league titles in a row, I want to have this question right now. To a lot of people, might be premature, but I don't think it is because he's not going to stick around for as long as Sir Alex Ferguson did. But who is the Premier League GOAT? Sir Alex Ferguson or Pep Guardiola? Granted, Pep Guardiola has only been in the Premier League for 8 seasons, while Ferguson had over 20 seasons. I think 20, yeah, 20 seasons in the or 21, 21 or yeah, 21 seasons in the Premier League. So
Yeah.
he's almost nearly treble the amount of time that he spent in the Premier League. But in a short period of time, Jack, he's been able to do stuff that Sir Alex Ferguson hasn't been able to do or it's already done. But Jack, who for
Right.
you is the Premier League GOAT?
Well, I think again, and I know you're going to get a complicated answer from me, which is I'm sure people watching are like, for God's sake, why can't this guy just answer the question that he's asked? He's so annoying. Why does he do this? It's the different ways you can take it. And I think you know my criticism, and people watching know my criticism of Pep Guardiola. I don't think Pep Guardiola can manage Sheffield United, Luton Town, any of these teams and keep them up. I don't. I think Sir Alex Ferguson can. Now, I think that the best Manchester United team in their prime against the best Man City team with Pep Guardiola's manager in their prime, they go against each other in 10 finals. I think Pep Guardiola wins seven or eight of them. I really do. I think the Manchester United team at their best with Sir Alex Ferguson as their manager, I think that they win two or three when they go to head 10 times. So you tell me, does that make Pep Guardiola a better manager? I would say at the very, very top of the game, yes. And you know where I'm going to go with this. Pep Guardiola can get more with more. He does management stuff that no one else in the history of the game has been able to do or potentially will be able to do in the future. Now, Xabi Alonso's had a bright start and we've seen some fun stuff, but there's a lot of work to do to get to Pep Guardiola levels of success. I rate Sir Alex Ferguson's longevity, his ability to go through multiple eras, his ability to knock off opponents as they've come and gone. Sir Alex, Arsene Wenger, Jose Mourinho, etc., etc. I respect that. But the one thing I will say about Manchester United, and again, I'm sure it infuriated a lot of our viewers when they were growing up, they had this financial pull and power that coincided with the internet into our lives, where they could break transfer records constantly. They could bring in the best player from your favorite team every single season. Even at the end, they could bring in Robin van Persie for £24 million. The next year, he could win the Golden Boot and they could win the Premier League. That's kind of financial doping in and of itself, if we're being honest, because they had the revenue that meant that they could do things that the other teams around them meant they couldn't do. Now, that makes Sir Alex Ferguson's job a hell of a lot easier, if you ask me, if you've got more money to spend than everybody else. Pep Guardiola, despite all of the charges and all this other stuff that they've got going on, look at the net spend, look at the outlay, all this kind of stuff. He's still operated within kind of the framework that he's been allowed to operate in, and he's been able to have this really, really great success. I think it's very difficult to not pick Sir Alex Ferguson because to me, when you think about the history of the Premier League, the guy, the chewing of the gum, the red cheeks, the anger, the hairdryer, and all this stuff, he is the Premier League. He is Manchester United. He very much in managers, he's kind of the poster child of Premier League football. Pep Guardiola is going to go multiple places and have a lot of success. And again, at the top level, I think Pep Guardiola is probably all time going to be considered a greater manager overall in Premier League football. Sir Alex Ferguson's the godfather, and I can't see Pep moving him.
I think with Pep is that if he wanted to stay, I think he could catch him. But because he has six right now, I think if he really wanted to say he could catch him. But Sir Alex Ferguson has double the amount he has. Granted, he's been there maybe three times the amount. The one thing that they both have in common, Jack, is you mentioned the spending power there. For everything people talk about the money with Manchester City, Manchester United had that in abundance and even more. They at a time they took Andy Cole from their rival Newcastle, Jack. They at a time took Dwight York Rio Leeds were like Jack. Leeds were a big challenger. Granted, they were going through some financial times. Took him there, signed the world record, no, of signed the record fee for a young player in like Wayne Rooney. So Manchester United had a lot of leverage and like and a lot of financial power. Um, you know, but you mentioned influence there. If we're talking about influence on Premier League football, I think Pep Guardiola has had more influence in terms of view of how the game is played. You look at the amount teams can't come into the Premier League right now and act like a Stoke anymore. It just does not work.
Okay.
You must be able to play out from the back. You must be able to beat a press. You must be able to press high, play a high line, and just the way he's having to invent the game. You watch every manager who comes into the Premier League, they're always one step behind him because Pep Guardiola will introduce something. They'll be like, "Oh, that's really good. Let me try that," and he's already on to the next thing. And people wonder why that it's hard to catch him because he's always thinking forward and everybody's thinking two steps behind. He's playing chess while everybody's playing checkers. Ferguson, in terms of view of the British media, the mind games, the talking, the tune of the gum, Fergie time will always be iconic, and I think that's probably what stands him ahead. I think Ferguson's ability to constantly reinvent his team, because Jack, when you look at it, he probably reinvented Manchester United about 6 times. 6 times. You
Yeah,
had the
that's true.
you had the Steve Bruce era into the Cantona era into the Academy '97 era into the Ruben Nistelrooy era into the Rooney Ronaldo era and into finishing off with the Robin van Persie era there. So we had different sorts of Manchester United teams there. Pep Guardiola isn't going to have that longevity there. But at the same time, Jack, he's doing things that Ferguson didn't never did. Jack, let's talk about it. Yeah, everything Ferguson has kind of done, he's also did it. Yeah, and Jack, he's done more. 100 points in the season, tick. Most goals scored in the season, tick. Most wins in the season, tick. Most consecutive wins in a season, tick. Longest unbeaten streak, winning unbeaten streak, tick. League titles in a
Titles
row,
in a
four.
row.
Jack, league titles in a row, four. Tick. Jack Ferguson only did three. Oh, Manchester United did a treble, 99 last year, treble. Oh, you know what? Domestic treble. Tick 90
Right, right.
98 points. Tick. Like there's so much stuff that Ferguson didn't do that Pep Guardiola has been able to do. And what Jack, when you look at the numbers, when you compare the numbers, there is a strong way that you can just say Guardiola is the best.
Well,
But
what do you what do you go ahead? No, no,
yeah,
finish your
the
point. Finish your
the
point.
one thing
Sorry.
I'm gonna say, people go now. I just gave you facts and numbers there. Jack brought up hypotheticals. The one hypothetical I'm going to bring is that Sir Alex Ferguson, throughout his whole time in the Premier League, faced different challenges and answered them. He had the Kenny Dalglish stuff, he answered that. He had the Kevin Keegan, answered that. Arsene Wenger answered that. Jose Mourinho answered that. Roberto Mancini answered that. Carlo Ancelotti answered that. Every question he was asked, he answered it. And to think that Pep Guardiola could he answer that Pep Guardiola question? I 100% believe he does. Because if he believes that Man United need to get 95 points, he'll do so. He said, "Oh, you know what? We will never lose another league title on goal difference." You know what he did? I'm going to sign Robin van Persie, the best striker in the
Right.
Premier League. He answered every question. This great Arsenal team play all that football. You know what? We're going to kick you guys to death, and guys, we're going to frustrate you. Did that. Yeah. Jose Mourinho with a great defensive team in that. We're going to outlast you. Yeah. We're going to get more points than you. He did that. Every question he was able to answer. So I would have loved to have been there to watch a Sir Alex Ferguson versus Pep Guardiola league because it would have been something to behold. The mind games, the stories. I find it so hard to look past Sir Alex Ferguson in the Premier League. I do believe all time. I really, really, really do believe all time that Guardiola's past him, but in the Premier League,
That's
not just yet. But
right.
if Guardiola wins 5 in a row, Jack, he might not have not been there as long as Sir Alex Ferguson. But if he's gonna duck after winning 5 in a row, he might have to come back with his conversation and say, you know what, he might be the greatest.
You might, and so a couple of things that I'll just ask you as well, because the charges I think are a real thing. If you've been cheating and you've had success, okay, fine. Lance Armstrong won a bunch of Tour de France and a bunch of races. but he did it illegally. And I think that plays a huge, huge factor. I do think it does. But yeah, okay, go ahead, go on.
You mentioned the Chargers too, but I can also mention stuff that happened with Manchester United, Jack, in terms of you. Remember Rafa when he was talking about the facts? I have the facts for you, talking about how Ferguson used to go into the referee's locker room. He used to talk to the this and that, the extra added time. Manchester United had a little bit more pull in the ways referees made decisions. So let's not act like it was just one way there. Ferguson had his own thing, Jack. He really did.
That's a
He
good
really did.
that's a
That's
good
coming from an
point.
Arsenal fan.
But let me ask you, I made the point. I think if they are at a neutral venue, the 10 games, best Man United team Ferguson managed, best team Man City Pep Guardiola's managed. They're at a neutral ground. They play 10 finals. Would you agree with me? Seven or eight, I'm leaning more towards eight of those finals go the way of the light blue because that's what I think is the case.
Again, maybe the individuals Manchester United were a bit greater in terms of Rooney, Ronaldo, Tevez. Obviously, they have Kevin De Bruyne, Aguero, and all that there. But just go watch the two Champions League finals that they played in. That might give you a clear answer.
Exactly. And also, I think over the course of a league, I take your point. I do, because I think you're right. Man United might be able to do it because they only play Pep Guardiola twice a year and they can pick up points elsewhere. They can be hard to beat at home. They can be a pain away from home. I get it. But to me, head to head's where they're going to be judged. And I think head to head, Pep's got them beat. But I think it's just the longevity thing for me. So Alex Ferguson has it by a hair. But again, it's more of the vibe and the aura around it.
But guys, Manchester United fans, I know you're thinking the audacity. How dare you? 13 league titles. But Pep is coming, fam. He's coming. You know, Mike Tyson said, like, if he sticks around, this could be get really uncomfortable. And if he wins 5 in a row, let's redo this video again. But Man City fans, who is the Premier League goal? Manchester United fans, who is the Premier League goal? Comment down below, guys. This is box to box football, and we'll see you guys next time.